There's a 242-pound tank in the Steelers' backfield who refuses to hit anyone. There's a 5'9" receiver in Houston who wins with separation and leverage against giants. And there's a 4.6 speed cornerback who hasn't given up a touchdown in a month. These aren't just good players, they're glitches in the NFL's code. Guys whose body types and playstyles directly contradict their job descriptions. And here's what makes them dangerous. Teams are copying these contradictions faster than ever. Today, we're breaking down 7 real NFL archetypes that look wrong until you understand the actual job. We're starting in the trenches, where the glitches are the loudest. The skinny offensive tackle is maybe the most visually confusing player on any NFL field. You're watching a right tackle who weighs 297 pounds, and he's lined up across from a defensive end who's 275 pounds of pure muscle and runs a 4.7 40. On paper, that's a mismatch. The end should be able to convert speed to power and walk this guy straight back into the quarterback's lap. This tackle wins early. His elite footwork and recovery ability mean he's never out of position, even when it looks like he is. He's steering rushers past the pocket like he's driving a car, using angles and timing so that power never lands clean. Brian O'Neill is the perfect example. At his combine, he ran a 4.82 40, fastest offensive lineman in his class, and posted a 7.14 second 3-cone drill that would make some linebackers jealous. The Vikings saw a player who could survive on movement instead of mass, and they were right. O'Neill has been a starting right tackle for years, protecting Kirk Cousins and now JJ McCarthy, and he's done it by being lighter, quicker, and smarter than the guys trying to run through him. What makes this work is independent hands and pre-snap IQ. These tackles don't wait to get bull rushed, they strike first. They win the early phase of the rep, which means the rusher's power phase never gets started. You'll notice it on film. Watch how often they're late to contact, but still in control. They're not absorbing force, they're redirecting it. Teams are now actively scouting for these athletic testers, prioritizing guys who can mirror and recover over pure anchors. The tell is simple. How often does he look overwhelmed, but the quarterback is still clean? That's not luck, that's the job. The soft power forward, better known as the modern big slot tight end, is another head scratcher. This is a guy built like an inline bully at 6'6" and 250 pounds, but he wants absolutely no part of trench violence. His game is all about forcing defensive personnel conflicts. Line him up detached, motion him, stack him behind a wideout. He's basically treated like WR2 with TE eligibility. Mike Gesicki is the prototype here. For years in Miami and now with the Bengals, Gesicki has made a career out of being too big for a nickel corner and too fast for a linebacker. He lives in the seams and runs option routes that look like they came from a slot receiver's playbook. The impact on team construction is massive. This archetype dictates coverages pre-snap, changes your third down menu, and turns your red zone into a math problem defenses hate solving. The key is that he's not trying to be Travis Kelce or George Kittle. He's not an every down player. He's a specialist who creates a specific problem. Do you put a defensive back on him and get bullied at the catch point, or do you put a linebacker on him and watch him run a 4.6 away from you? The answer is usually wrong. Teams will tolerate a tight end who can't block a soul if he wins on third down and in the red area. The tell is alignment. If he's lined up detached more than 70% of the time, he's not a traditional TE. He's a power forward playing basketball on a football field. Now we flip to the skill positions, where the contradictions get even more visual. These are the guys who look like they walked into the wrong meeting, but end up running the show anyway. The short, deep threat is maybe the most visually confusing player in football. We're talking about a wide receiver who's 5'9", built like a slot guy, but his entire job is to win vertically. Tank Dell in Houston is the modern prototype. The exception to the rule that shorter receivers can't win downfield. He's not supposed to be the guy running 15-yard outs or slants. He's supposed to be the one stacking cornerbacks and winning with separation and leveraging 40 yards downfield. Steve Smith Jr. wrote the book on this. For a decade in Carolina, Smith was the smallest guy on the field and the most terrifying deep threat in the league. He didn't win with height. He won with separation early, late hands, tracking, and stack technique that made 6'2" corners look like they were stuck in mud. What makes this work is leverage and geometry. A short receiver gets on top of a corner faster because his center of gravity is lower. He can sink his hips and explode out of breaks without any wasted motion. When he stacks a defender, gets on top of him, and forces the corner to open his hips, the height disadvantage disappears. The ball isn't arriving to a jump ball spot, it's arriving to a spot where only the receiver can adjust. The quarterback has to trust the placement, and the receiver has to trust the timing. Defenses counter by pressing to disrupt the release and shading safety help early, but that just opens up the intermediate game. The tell is how he gets on top without being taller. Watch the tape. He's not climbing a ladder, he's climbing the cornerback's blind spot. He's using the defender's own length against him, creating a shadow where the ball can drop. The non-contact power back is the same principle applied to the run game. This is a running back built like a bruiser, 242 pounds, tree trunks for legs, the kind of guy who looks like he was born to run through walls, except he runs like he's allergic to collisions, inviting defenders to declare, then making them miss by running into their blind spots. Najee Harris in Pittsburgh has mastered this. Patience as a weapon, tempo control. He'll take a handoff, pause at the line like he's reading a menu, and by the time he hits the hole, the linebacker has already committed to the wrong gap. Le'Veon Bell wrote the blueprint for this in his prime. What looks like hesitation is actually calculation, forcing the defense to show its cards, then exploiting the geometry of the block. The hidden skill is absorbing contact only after the decision is made, finishing forward without ever seeking the hit. Defensive coordinators counter with disciplined fits and rally tackling, forcing the back to choose fast so the late cut has no runaway. But when it works, it turns a blocked 3-yard play into a 9-yard gain. The back isn't running through people, he's running around their intentions, using the defense's aggression as a weapon, letting them over-pursue, then cutting against the grain. Now flip to defense, where wrong style can still dominate if the rules of the job are different. The slow shutdown corners may be the most baffling player in modern football. This is a cornerback with 4.6 perceived speed, timed performance that would get most DBs converted to safety, but somehow, every Sunday, the other team's best receiver disappears when he's on that side. Richard Sherman built a Hall of Fame career on this exact contradiction. He wasn't a burner, he wasn't even the most athletic guy in his own secondary, but what he had was pre-snap IQ that functioned like a cheat code. He could anticipate routes before the receiver even made his break. He understood leverage discipline so well, he was always in the right spot to make the throw look impossible. This wasn't just coverage, it was a mental beatdown. Sherman turned 4.3 speed receivers into frustrated chess players, forcing them into congested catches they didn't want to make. He played within coverage rules that most corners ignore, using length and physicality not to dominate, but to irritate. The key distinction, Sherman wasn't never beaten, but he was never panicked. He forced throws to be perfect every single time, and perfect throws are rare in the NFL. What makes this work is cushion management and baiting windows. These corners don't press and jam like Revis Island. They play with a 3 to 4 yard cushion, daring the quarterback to throw what looks like an open slant or dig. Then, at the last second, they drive on the ball with a closing speed that defies their timed 40. They turn what looks like a clean window into a sideline trap. The quarterback thinks he has a completion, the receiver thinks he has separation, and then the ball arrives, and there's a hand in the way. It's not magic, it's geometry and timing. It's understanding that a quarterback's job isn't to cover grass, it's to cover airspace. These guys defend the trajectory, not the man, and they do it by being smarter, not faster. Most linebackers are judging by the sound of the collision, but there's one specific glitch linebacker who has mastered an invisible skill that allows him to make the tackles that matter without ever delivering a big hit. Here's why the ninja of the defense is actually a coordinator's dream. The efficiency king middle linebacker is the defensive mirror of that patience. This is a guy who plays middle linebacker like a chess master, not a battering ram. His job is supposed to be about violence, filling gaps, blowing up fullbacks, delivering the kind of hits that make stadiums roar. But this linebacker, he's playing a different game. He's playing in space instead of in the trash, prioritizing stopping the drive over winning a collision. The result is fewer highlight reel hits, but more plays where he ends up in the right spot. He can look soft until you track the outcomes. Denzel Perryman in Los Angeles has made a career as the efficiency king. He's not the biggest or the most explosive, but he's always where the ball is. He knows stops win games, not hits. He's a middle linebacker who plays like a free safety in run support, and somehow it works. The trade-off is real. These linebackers give up some thump. They don't intimidate, they don't set the tone with violence, but what they give you is reliability. They don't get caught out of position chasing a big hit. They don't get sealed inside by a guard who knows the linebacker wants to make a splash play. They just make the play. The downside? When it fails against downhill run teams that climb to them and force them to take on guards repeatedly. But in a passing league, this style wins. It's the football equivalent of winning a fistfight by not throwing punches. You let the other guy tire himself out, then you step in and win on points. We've seen glitches at every major position, but our final archetype is the final boss of NFL contradictions. He plays a position that the rest of the league tried to make extinct 10 years ago, and he's currently the most dangerous weapon on the field. The pass-first fullback is the final contradiction. This is a fullback who's basically a slot receiver in a helmet. Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco has turned this into an art form. He lines up in the backfield, but he's running option routes, leaking into the flat for checkdowns, and monitoring pre-snap to reveal man or zone. He's not a lead blocker, he's a coverage buster and base personnel, a checkdown converter against blitzes, and a motion weapon that gives the quarterback free information. He shouldn't exist in modern football, but Usyk makes the position indispensable by being everything a fullback isn't supposed to be. He's not the hammer, he's the scalpel. Here's the bottom line. The NFL stopped drafting for positions and started drafting for problems. These 7 archetypes keep winning because they solve specific issues traditional players can't. Teams don't care about labels anymore, they care about answers. Drop your favorite confusing archetype and the best example in the comments. And if you want more NFL breakdowns that actually explain the tape, hype this video and make sure you're locked in and subscribed to Extra Point Explanation.